is that Sadio Mane is looking to leave Liverpool. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I don't think it's too big a surprise, and I think it was fairly well flagged up when he said during the build-up to the Champions League final that he will tell everybody his big decision after the game. So that didn't kind of point towards him staying. Now, the reality is that I think Liverpool are prepared to let him go, but nothing's in place yet with Bayern Munich. This suggestion that Bayern Munich are going to sign him, Liverpool want a fee. They'll want a fee of around 25 million for a player that's got a year left on his contract. So he's 29 years old, a year left on his contract. There's still plenty of value with Sadio Mane, but it's not a done deal yet with Bayern Munich. So Liverpool try and make sure they get what they believe he is worth. They've got a situation obviously with Mo Salah, who's also out of contract in a year's time. So they have to make sure that if they lose one, they don't lose another one.
Is it the case that the money that Bayern are offering, Liverpool aren't willing to match?
I think it's more a case of Sadio Mane just thinks that I think he wants a new challenge. I do think he has become a little bit frustrated by the fact that all the focus is on Mo Salah. Both players are hugely important to Liverpool, but Salah gets a lot of the praise, a lot of the credit. I think Mane just thinks, well, I've given Liverpool 4 or 5 years of my career. I've won everything I can win at Liverpool, so it's time to move on and find a new challenge. But I do think that Liverpool have maybe focused more on getting Mo Salah to stay rather than Sadio Mane. And I think ultimately he's thinking, well, if that's the case, then I'll move somewhere else.
Can you see where he's coming from with this decision?
Not really, no. I mean, if he's annoyed about that, then there's not a lot I can say about it. But I mean, Bayern Munich are a great club. But let's be honest, it's not a big challenge. It's a procession. They'll win the league again next year, like they have the last 10 years, is it? Liverpool's a challenge. Man City are a challenge. Chelsea might be another challenge. It's just a huge challenge on all fronts.
Right.
It's just a choice. I'm a little surprised because everything about Mane and Salah and Klopp and Firmino and Diaz and Henderson, Fabinho, Van Dijk, the list goes on, is about being together and having that unity. And listen, every now and again players want to go, but I'm surprised. I'm surprised when a player wants to leave, like a City or a Liverpool at the moment, unless they're well out of game time. You know what I mean? And then it's a different story. Sadio Mane is not. If players feel unloved, then fine. We can't control their feelings on that. But it's not a challenge going to Bayern, is it? It's just not, and that may upset a few people, but that's a fact. They are a dominant side in German football. Liverpool are a great side in England, but there's a huge challenge on to be the top dog in England. You need your Sadio Manes for that, and Bayern Munich do not.
I understand what Mark's saying, but we've heard in the past, haven't we, Sadio Mane didn't want to celebrate Africa Cup of Nations at Anfield because he didn't want to remind Mo Salah of it. The World Cup's his excellence as well. So maybe that goes against slightly what we're hearing. Is it just a case he wants a fresh?
I think so. That's the only thing you can put it down to, that he wants a fresh opportunity, whether you phrase that as a challenge.
I don't personally see where the fresh challenge comes from.
Well,
I suppose it's always a challenge going to a new team.
Right, and now here's the thing: is as somebody who grew up outside of England and played his career in English football, it's never home. So I'm always a little bit more sympathetic to somebody who is not English and has now spent 6 years at Liverpool, for more than that when you add in his time at Southampton. So it's not as jarring a decision, not as difficult a decision to go somewhere else, because as good as things have been, you're not home. Right. And so it's the decision to move elsewhere that isn't home is an easier one for Sadio Mane. So I'm sympathetic in that regard. But at the same time, he is in a good place at Liverpool. And I'm like Craig in that when you hear about players leaving clubs that they're settled in, that are successful, you always start to question that. Because for all the frustrations, Liverpool are competing at the top end of the Premier League, or certainly will be. They've played, 3 of the last 5 Champions League finals. So they are one of Europe's big boys, even though they've lost 2 of those finals. So that for me is a little bit concerning. As much as you see the players coming in like Jota and Diaz, you felt it was more Firmino who was more likely to be displaced. Yes. You know, so that for me, from that aspect, I'm a little bit confused.
I mean, I'm maybe backtracking a little bit here, and it's about. There maybe is a little bit of a challenge going to Bayern, but then you've got to look at the timing as well. We've talked on the show about Lewandowski's position. He's not a happy chappy. Mm-hmm. Chances are he may go. Thomas Müller is certainly in the twilight of his career. They've lost defenders to free transfers. They've got problems at the back. Is Bayern Munich looking to you, when I bring those scenarios up, a team that's really going to challenge in the Champions League, right, unless they go out and spend a lot of money, which generally they haven't done? So I even look at the timing of it. I mean, that being said, I still think they would probably win the Bundesliga, even having maybe losing Lewandowski or blah blah blah. Dortmund have lost Haaland, but here you're at a team who have literally fought on every front this year, right to the end. Right to the end. As a player, getting paid handsomely at a magnificent club in the best league in the world at the moment. How much better does it get than that? What else do you I don't understand what else you need to make you happy. Unless it's a family decision and a family wants to move, then I'll hold my hands up and say that's a different matter. A football decision?
See, the other thing to this is that he's got a year left on his contract. And having been in similar positions, when your contract is winding down, you're into the club, or your agent is, and saying, well, we've got 3 years left, we've got 2 years left, let's start talking now. And while there'll be speculation and stories in the papers going way back about those negotiations and where they fell flat or whatever it may be, for a player like Sadio Mane, as important as he has been, for the success that Liverpool has enjoyed over the last few years, the fact that he's now a year left suggests that there's been a disconnect. And if there's a disconnect, again, just kind of going back to, well, I'm not home anyway, you've got no family connection with Liverpool. You just think, well, if the club are prepared to mess me around, I'm looking at this purely from Sadio Mane's perspective. If the club are willing to mess me around in the manner that they have over the last 12 or 18 months, then, you know what, I'm going to walk away.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.